I'm going to read a short extract from The Archer's Year of Food and Farming. Where did you grow up, Rosie? Borsetshire, a little village called Ambridge. And what were your Christmases like? Rosie Ruth Grace Archer thought back to her childhood days at Brookfield Farm. Warm. The general impression in Rosie's mind resolves itself into a clear memory. Sitting at a table in the Arga-cheered kitchen, making paper chains or glitter-strewn cards, the aroma of some delicious treat tantalising her nostrils. Great-grand Jill was by then well into her 80s, but she could still conjure up a 3-course meal for a dozen people, apparently without effort. And if the mischievous twinkle ever left her eyes while she did so, then Rosie was not around to see it. In the sitting room, the fire blazed, its dancing flames kaleidoscoped 100 times by the baubles adorning the Christmas tree. It was so tall that the angel at its tip had to duck her head, looking down benevolently as Mum and Uncle Ben laughed with her. She was never short of playmates, even if her charming and mercurial father Toby wasn't always on hand. So many schemes, so many dreams. But when he was there, she never doubted that he loved his little rose petal in his own special way. Every family has its own Christmas traditions, a patchwork of folk custom, religious ritual, new adoptions and unspoken expectations. For Rosie, no Christmas was complete without at least one visit to deck the hall. Growing up, she thought it was perfectly normal to have a great aunt who commanded a stately home. After all, Elsa and Anna lived in a snow-clad castle. Why would Auntie Lily and Uncle Freddie not live in a grand mansion? Lower Loxley was her own fantasy land, and it was never better than at Christmas time. The centrepiece was always the ice rink. Rosie can't remember how old she was when she took her first tentative steps onto that slippery surface, but she can certainly remember the comforting security of her granddad's hand. And when they left the ice, hearts pumping and cheeks burnished by the chill air, it was time to visit the food stalls, a ring of alpine huts, each a treasure trove of wildly exotic delights. Gingerbread hearts tingling with spice, candied almonds, their scent intoxicating as incense, a bratwurst as long as her arm, dwarfing the bread roll on which it was precariously perched. And the hot chocolate. Oh, the hot chocolate. Rich as a beanstalk giant, warm as a mother's heart, topped with an eiger of whipped cream. Rosie smiles with the sudden realisation. Grandad David usually chose another drink, fruit red and steaming, served in its own quirky china mug. At the time she thought it was just the hot blackcurrant squash that she'd sometimes have when she got home from school, and she could never understand why she wasn't allowed a sip. Of course, she knows now what it was, and why it was such a perfect grown-up accompaniment to a starry December night. Merry Christmas.